Welcome back, Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic/Non-Classic. This is episode number 246 and Doubleshot number 179, okay? Now, I have one Batman trade, one Superman trade, okay? First up, this big, huge book, Batman Contagion. Now, this book contains a lot of issues. It's a crossover. It collects Azrael, 15 and 16, is the first volume for the series. Batman, number 529, 532. Batman Chronicles, number 4. Batman Shadow Bat, 48 to 52. Catwoman, volume 2, number 31, 32. Detective Comics, 675 to 696. And Robin, 27, 30. Now, there are a few different writers in here. There you got Alan Grant, Chuck Dixon, and Danny O'Neill, along with Garth Ennis. He's one other writer. Now, Chuck Dixon writes the issues for the Detective Comics, Catwoman, and Robin, including one of the 3 stories for Batman Chronicles. He writes the second story. The first story is written by Garth Ennis, and it features Garth Ennis' character Hitman. Alan Grant writes Shadow the Bat. Batman is written by Doug Mowick, and Azrael is written by Denny O'Neill. And they even put in here the stuff that leads up to Batman Legacy, which is the crossover that comes right after this one. But this book is like really long. One thing I do like about this book is that even for the crossover itself, I mean, you probably think, probably Superman is probably the only series to actually have like numbers on his book. The Bat books do the same thing. Yeah, this is the first chapter from Batman Shadow the Bat number 48. But this is really good. Heck, there's even 3 issues in here like right afterwards. Now, some of the stuff that comes afterwards, like there's some stuff with Robin, dealing with him, what was going on with him after Contagion. For Batman, he works with Deadman of all people. Shadow the Bat just deals some more stuff. The only series that's not in here that was being published at the time when this crossover came back in the late 90s. Was it the late 90s? It was 96, mid-90s. The only title that was... there's like 2 Batman titles that were not part of this crossover. Nightwing and Legends Dark Knight. Legends Dark Knight, I can understand why, because that usually takes place in the past, but Nightwing, this is why I think he appears in this story, has no issues of his very series taking place during this very story. He could just have it. I mean, they did it for No Man's Land. Why can't they do it for this one? But, yeah, basically there's a virus growing in the city, and, in case you're wondering, this is Kelly Jones' artwork. He is very much known for doing stuff like this. With the long, pointy ears. This is his art style. And you can actually find him, his most recent work he's done for Kelly Jones, is that there's one more issue come out for this one, and that's the mini-series for Swamp Thing, which is like Swamp Thing Volume 6. It is really good, and I highly recommend it. It even has Swamp Thing's creator Lynn Wynn on the writing. Now, Kelly Jones only does the artwork for Batman. The other artists in here are... There's a bunch in here. There is... the artists in here are... We got Vincent Gairu, I think it's a pronounced one. Yeah. But Vincent Gairu, he does a majority of the artwork in here, which is really good. Sometimes the artwork can change and it's very jarring. But that's because it's different series. Now, Alan Grant, him and Danny O'Neill have one thing in common. They stayed on the respective series for a long period of time. I mean, not just for a few years. I mean, look at, let's say, Shadow Bat, for example. Alan Grant wrote that from issue 1, and he stayed in the book until, like, issue 82. He was in the book for almost 7 years. Now, the last year, the book was written by Chuck Dixon. But Alan Grant, I mean, if you read the issues of Shadow the Bat that he wrote, they're weird issues. But they have gorgeous... But one thing you gotta admit, the covers are freaking gorgeous when it comes to Shadow the Bat. Danny O'Neill wrote every single issue of Azrael, so yeah, credit for his due. Chuck Dixon was the original writer for Robin, so I wasn't surprised to see him on here. Catwoman, he was the second writer on the series. I think this was just about his second year on the book when the storyline came out, because Mary Jo Duffy was the original writer for Catwoman. So by the time she left the book, this is probably about 2 years into his run. So yeah, kind of the same thing with his run for Robin at this point. He was 2 years into the run. Azrael had only been around for barely over a year by the time the storyline came. This was actually the first crossover that the Azrael series was involved with. Batman, Doug Moak have had the book on and off since the 80s, so I wasn't surprised to see him out here. But yeah, you have Chuck Dixon writing a majority of the stories in here. So you have Chuck Dixon, Alan Grant, and Danny O'Neill working together to make a really good story, and it's very interesting. Now, the last time Danny O'Neill basically worked... Now, here's interest. Oh, and Doug Moak. Now, the last time crossover we had something like this where it's really thick, like this, was probably Nightfall. Yeah, Nightfall. Batman Legacy is sort of a unofficial sequel to Nightfall because Batman has a rematch with Bane. But this is basically like deal with the virus. Now, Legacy is a follow-up to this one. And also reveal a legacy of who was behind the virus. Now, there was some things like you have Gordon, who's not commissioned at this point. Basically, it's somebody else, but yeah, somebody. They got a new mayor in Gotham who actually is not corrupt. Because one thing noteworthy about the Batman books, I would say since the 70s, they've always depicted where the mayors of Gotham City are very much in the pockets of the mob. Yeah, they're always crooked. Heck, if you read Batman Eternal, Mayor Hardy, Mayor Hardy is corrupt because he's good friends with Carmine Falcone. Yeah. So this is actually one of the very few mayors I have ever seen in the Batman books who was not depicted being corrupt. She is honest. She got rid of the bogus commissioner. Now, Harvey Bullock and Ray Montoya are basically in here as well. Yeah, and the artwork in here is just so good for a lot of the stuff in here. But this is still an interesting story. Heck, guess who got... And the way this thing starts out, Azrael is the one who puts Batman on the trail of this virus. It's not like Batman finds out about it. He finds on his own. He is told this by Azrael. And Azrael is written to be completely in character in every single issue he appears in. Despite the fact how cool for Cocoa Puffs he can be when he's wearing the original outfit. But this is still really good. 9.5 out of 10. I highly recommend it. People who are basically Batman fans. But if you're interested in reading a good Batman story, this is definitely one for you. But I would get used to change the artwork when it comes to this book. Alright, next up, Superman, Men of Tomorrow. Written by Jeff Johns. Artwork by John Romita Jr., colors by Klaus Johnson, and I think Laurie Martin, I believe, is the... Yeah, Klaus Johnson is the inker. Laurie Martin is the colorist. Now, this particular storyline is the storyline people thought that Superman was actually going to start getting better. Well, the writing was getting better, because Scott Lobdell had already left the book at this point. Scott Lobdell had an okay run, but it wasn't like when this volume Superman started, where it was so confusing. The artwork was good, but the writing was not that good. But I can't blame George Perez for that. That's not his fault. It's his editor's fault. The fact he had, I read an article about that where the 6 issues that he did, the reason why he left, and the reason why the environment's so toxic, because the editors had to go. He had to go through like a half a dozen rewrites for every single issue he wrote for the Superman title. That's the reason why he left. And that's also the reason why Superman has gone through many different writers and artists, because they can't keep them on for a long period of time because the editors tend to interfere with the work. But they can't do it for Jeff Johns because he's the one basically who's higher authority than the editor-in-chief. He's the chief creative officer of DC Comics. But here's the thing about this particular storyline. Despite the fact this trade collects issues 32-39, he only does 32 to 38. The last issue was written and drawn by John Romita Jr. Now, when this storyline first came out, the artwork was very dark. I know because I've read some of the majority of the artwork. But this artwork, it's like someone just... It's like Klaus Johnson, who was the inker, and the colors. It's like they made this book very much better. Despite the fact John Romita Jr. is not exactly a very popular artist. But one thing, he does make the costumes, the characters they may be very blocky, and he's not everybody's favorite artist. Heck, when this storyline was coming, I always remember when this first storyline came out, people called, DC was promoted this as the Dream Team. Jeff Johns and John Romita Jr. Now, people were excited about Jeff Johns because he's a good writer. They were not excited about John Romita Jr. Now, one thing I have got to say, I'm very happy with John Romita Jr. did not do for this particular storyline that they kind of fixed in here. Now, if you read some of the stuff like Spider-Man or some of his other books, he's very much a fan of putting lines on people's faces just to make it look like they're in shadow. I'm like, why in the world would you do that? In here, none of the faces have barely got any lines. I mean, there's some lines for shadow. But it's still, this storyline I actually do like. Despite the fact the villain is actually kind of interesting. You have Superman written completely in character. For some people who are long-time Superman fans, probably the first time in 3 years that he's written completely in character, and not some prop that people think that Superman has been for the past few years, or someone's posing as Superman. This is like the real Superman coming out. It's like this is the real Superman. I don't have a problem with some of the other writers who've written this volume of Superman, but this writer is actually really good, Jeff Johns. Now, the guy who replaced him is also the guy who's writing the new Superman, the series New Superman, coming Rebirth. This title, Rebirth, is going to be written by Pierre de Tomasi, and it's also written by Patrick Gleason, so the artwork's going to be good too. But this storyline, it's just Superman basically encountering this guy called Ulysses, who was supposed to be apparently the last son of Earth, and about this fourth dimension stuff. It's kind of weird, but it's very interesting to read. This is a very interesting story to read. The artwork is actually pretty decent for what it is. I gotta say one thing about John Romita Jr.'s artwork in here. This is actually one of his more better stuff that he's actually done when it comes to drawing. For writing, he's actually a pretty decent writer. The only I know that he's a writer for issue 39 because he's credited as that. Despite the fact he's not credited in this trade, but he did write the final issue. He wrote it and drew it himself. Now, the one thing this trade technically did not do is show off the logo that he gave Superman for issue 39. They show off all the variant covers, but the one thing this trade does not do is show off the logo that he gave Superman. It was kind of like a retro 70s style logo, not the classic logo people love very much about Superman's logo. Yeah, the way this word Superman is done like this, people love this style. I don't have a problem with any style of Superman because I'm not really a big Superman fan, but I do enjoy reading his issues. This is really good. Now, the reason why this doesn't have a volume on it, and there is a reason for this. I think DC didn't feel like put a volume on this one for some reason. I think because this is just a one and done storyline, and because this is the only story Jeff Johns wrote, and of course they decided just to abandon the numbering for Superman after Scott Lobdell left the book. Because I think that for volume number, I think it got the volume 5. So you can kind of count this as probably volume 6. But this is still good. One thing I should note, the side about a lot of the other books after the New 52 logo was removed, they decided to give it this more, basically all the trades have this spine now. Yeah, this spine is the traditional spine they have now. And the logo for the Superman one is blue. I don't remember what, there's a lot of them basically are red. Like, I think it's mainly just the group titles that use the color red. Now, this one used to be red. Like, if you find the old Superman trades, a lot of the time you will find, because it was just color up here, usually that'll be the Superman trades that have the color red. This one is blue, mainly because Superman's costume is normally blue. But this is still a good story, and I give it a 9 out of 10. It's a pretty decent story. And it's a great read. Alright, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned for episode number 247 and Doubleshot 180. But until then, see you there. Bye.